Hi guys. Okay, so this is going to be our first video. I do recommend that you take notes while we're kind of going through this. It's going to be helpful so that you could check back in notes so that you don't have to come back and watch my video a second time if you need like just one quick little thing. And it just is one of those, you can watch something and digest it, and that's good, but writing them down and kind of working things through on paper is just going to help you more. Okay, I'm going to see how I can do. I promise you I'll try to keep these like to 10 to 15 minutes at a maximum. It's my first time trying it, so I'm going to get better as I go along, I promise, but we'll see how close to that 10 to 15 minutes I stay. Okay, so this is going to be a 1.1. This is titled, sorry, there's like an ambulance going by. This is titled Lines in the Plane. So we start off pretty slow here when we're talking about with precalc and precalc kind of topic. It starts off very slow, talking about slope. So hopefully you remember what slope is. You generally see slope identified as the variable m, okay? So when we're talking about slope then, in order to find it, you're given 2 points, right? You either are given 2 points or you're given a graph. It's really easy to find it from a graph. You just count rise over run, right? That's also something to do with slope. I should have put that in there. Okay, if you're given a graph, you can just use rise over run to determine what the slope is. But if you're just given 2 points, you can go ahead and use those 2 points, okay? In the first point, we label them x1, y1. That's what that little dash is next to it. And second point is going to be x2, y2. This matters because you have to decide what's going to be your point 1 and what's going to be your point 2. It doesn't matter which one it is, but you have to make that decision. Because we go and we take the second points and we subtract them from the first points, okay? Y is always on top, X is always on bottom. That's going to give me my M. So there's some different kinds of, oh, and also one little tidbit. If X and X1 were equal, okay? So let's say they both equaled 3. That would be 3 minus 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. So I would get 1 in my denominator. Not 1, I would get 0 in my denominator. Can we have 0 in a denominator of a fraction or on the bottom of a fraction? Nope, that's not allowed. So that's why we have this little note that x1 and x2 cannot be equal to each other in order to have a slope. So I have 4 different kinds of lines here. They all have a different type of slope to them. When we're looking at this first one, okay, you can think of it as like going downhill. Okay, you're up at the top here and you're going down like a little skier or something. As I'm going down, that's telling me if I start from left and go down to the right, that's going to be a negative slope. Okay, negative, negative. On the contrary, when we're looking here, I'm starting low and I'm going high to the right, okay? I'm climbing up the mountain. I'm increasing or I'm going as a positive slope. Okay, positive. So now we have these 2 straight lines. When we're discussing straight lines, there's 2 different things that happen. This is going to be a slope that equals 0. Okay, I'm not going up, I'm only going over, right? Okay, so slope is going to be equaling 0. Basically, this is with just one of those horizontal lines, just simply has a y-intercept and that's it. I'm writing a line along one of those y-intercepts or x-intercepts. Over here with this one, anytime we have a vertical line, that's caused by an undefined slope, okay? You can barely see that. Let me bump that guy over. Okay, so we have our 4 different kinds of slopes here. We have a negative, a positive, a slope of 0, and then that undefined. So those are the different types. Now I have two different examples here that we have to do. One is we got to go back to Algebra 1 and remind ourselves how we find slope. Okay, and we're going through how do we even find slope. So I'm going to give you 2 points. So given the points -2, 0, and 3, 1. Find the slope. Okay, let's go back. In order to find my m, I'm taking my y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's first, right off the bat, decide what's going to be my first point, what's going to be my second point. We're going to go with the easiest solution here. The first one listed will be my first point. The second one listed will be my second point. When we write coordinate points, we go x, y, x, y. So this will be x1, y1. This will be x2, y2. Once we've identified those, we can plop them into our formula. And I say, okay, my y2 minus my y1. That is, no, that's not 3. That is 1 minus 0. Okay? Now, I take my x2 minus my x1. x2 is 3 minus x1 is -2, okay? You make sure you get both of those negatives in there. Right off the bat, 1 minus 0 is 1. When we have a double negative, right? 3 minus -2. When you subtract a negative, it's the same thing as adding a positive, okay? So we're gonna have 1/5, right? Because 3 plus 2 is 5. So my slope here, or my m, is 1/5, okay? Pretty self-explanatory, comes in many different kind of forms, but I think no matter what, you're gonna find that they're just, they all have the same difficulty level. All right, one last thing. You may remember this before, but you should remember this from before, I should say. Okay, we're going to talk about point slope form. So what point slope form is? It's basically a method of when you're given a point and you're given a slope, you can use both of those two things in order to write a function of the graph, okay? So, it's very obvious from the name, you need, I should put need, point and slope, okay? In order to use point slope form, you need a given point and you need a given slope. So, the formula for point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Again, notice there's only two things here that have a subscript, y1 and x1. Because again, we don't need that second point. We don't need that y1 or y2, x2. We just need 1 point, 1 slope. So we'll put our given point into y1, x1, and our slope into our m. Okay. So one little tidbit. You cannot use if the slope is undefined. This is going to be true for most things. Just one thing to kind of put out there so that if you ever see this you come across this in homework, you know that that fact is true. All right. So I'm going to just kind of move the camera over here a little bit. All right. So I can still kind of reference back to some of that stuff. So I want to do the following example. I want us to find the equation of the line given it passes through 1, -2, and has a slope of 3. Okay, so I want us to real quick here first identify the two things that we need, right? We know we need a point and we know we need a slope. We want to identify what those two things are. So point real quick is 1, -2. And I'm going to use a different marker actually. Okay, got that down. So what's my slope then? Slope is 3. So m equals 3. If we use our given information and kind of click back to the formula that we're given, this is point slope formula. My y and my x, these two things are going to stay stagnant. Okay, I'm not changing those at all. They stay the variable that they are right now. What I will do is put in my x1, okay, and my y1. So let's plop our x1 in. That's a 1. Let's plop our y1 in. That's a -2. My slope is 3. So if I rewrite this right now, we're looking at y minus, okay, here's the original minus my y1 is a -2, okay? I cannot lose a negative that was already there. I can't get rid of any of those. I need to keep both of them. And equals 3 times x minus my x1, which was 1. From this point on, we're basically doing some simplifying methods, okay? The whole point was I wanted to find the equation of the line. I found a rough version of it. It's gonna come down to a y equals though. Okay, that's the goal. So I'm gonna do some simplifying. Again, I know double negative equals a positive. So this is y plus 2 equals, my first step I have to do on my right side is distribution. Okay, so that 3 applies to the x and 3 applies to the -1. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times -1 is -3. So I'm almost there, right? I told us we needed to get this to be a y equals something. The only thing from keeping that from happening is this -2. So in order for me to get this into a y equals, I'm going to have to subtract 2 and subtract 2 from both sides. Okay, when that happens, this just becomes y on this side, right? These 2's cancel each other out. The 3x is left. Okay, that's not getting touched. -3 minus 2. Okay, so I'm already at -3. I'm going to go 2 more in the negative direction, over to -5. Okay, this is my equation of the line that passes through the point 1, -2, and has a slope of 3. Real quick, I want us to graph it. I want us to get comfortable not only using slopes and points to graph functions, but also using their equations. So on a coordinate plane, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How do I graph starting with a function? Okay, I start down here. This back half of a function is telling me where my y-intercept is. If we talk about the coordinate plane, this is y and this is x. So my y-intercept would be, where do I cross this line? Okay, this is telling me I crossed it at -5. So I come all the way down to -5. All right, that's my starting point. I go use my slope from there to make the rest of my line. Positive slope of 3. That means I'm going down from the left up to the right. So I start then from here. Okay, we know this is rise over run. I go up 1, 2, 3 over 1. Up 1, 2, 3 over 1. That's enough for me. I got 2, 3 points. I draw it out and I call it good. Okay, that is as far as we're gonna go for today. I think I'm like almost right on that like 15, 16 minute mark. Okay, so again, there's gonna be homework associated with this. If you are a remote learner, please do that homework after watching the video, turn it in. Let me know if you have any questions. If you're an in-person learner, do not do it like outside of class. If you do, I'm going to find something else for you to do inside of class. So do the video, watch it, take your notes, come prepared with questions, with maybe some more examples that you want to see, and then we're going to do the actual assignment in class. Okay, so please don't do it if you're in person, remote. Please do it and ask me if you have any questions. That is it for today. Okay, bye.